Good morning. Welcome to Daily Focus. I trust that you are off to a great day and you had a good night's rest and confident in what God has in store for you today. I love this portion of scripture that we're going to deal with in Daniel chapter 1 today. We'll deal with verses 8 through the end of the chapter, verse 21. And I've entitled this one, Purpose to be Godly. The most important part of parenting is actually wanting to produce godly kids, not just good kids. Unfortunately, we have a sector of Christianity today that is just trying to produce good kids, kids that don't go to jail, kids that actually make a living, kids that do their job, kids that get along with people. They want their kids to be good, but God's design is that we should want them to be godly. We should want of ourselves to not just simply be good in society, but to be distinctly different because of Christ living in us, the hope of glory. And so Daniel purposed in his heart to be godly. And that's really where we are. We're going to read the text. I have three things that I want to bring out of the text that I think will help us, not only in thinking through our parenting, not only thinking through our discipleship of who it is that we're discipling. Let me just say, you're discipling somebody on purpose or you're not discipling at all. Discipleship rarely ever happens by accident. It actually is intentionally taking the things that I have learned from somebody and handing them off to somebody else in the same condition in which I received it. That's the Second Timothy 2:2 principle. And either I'm taking the things that I've learned and intentionally giving them to somebody, or I'm just living this life where I'm hoping somebody catches something about my life. That's not discipleship at all. And so, whether this is parenting that will help you, or whether this is just your responsibility to disciple that will help you, this text will help you understand not only your own purpose, but what you're trying to teach those that you influence. And so verse number 8 says, But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. So here's some things that Daniel is saying. You know what? I want to be distinctly different in the world. I don't want to just be a prisoner. I just don't want to be a captor. I don't want to just be brought into the palace because I'm smart, or because God's hand is upon me, or they see me as healthy and intelligent. I want them to see my God. I want them to see the purpose behind why I am who I am, and I want God to be glorified. So I don't want them to be impressed with me. I need to figure out a way for them to be impressed with my God. And so he purposes in his heart that I'm going to be distinctly different. And I want them to see why I'm going to be different and how that is going to produce fruit. And so now God had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. In other words, the guy that's overseeing him, much like the person over the prison with Joseph, saw something very different in Joseph. This guy sees something very different in Daniel, and he likes him. He is comfortable handing responsibilities off to him. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your face worse liking than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. In other words, Daniel, you do know something, that if you show an attitude, kings don't put up with negative attitudes. They don't put up with pessimistic approach. And you can't be a product of myself and do that without it affecting me. Then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuch had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, Prove thy servants, I beseech thee. 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. Give us fruits and vegetables and some water. Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat the portion of the king's meat, as thou seest, deal with thy servant. So he consented to them in this matter and proved them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children that did eat the portion of the king's meat. Now, there's an element of this that I think was God's intervention, was God's blessing, was God proving his power. And Daniel was willing to trust God in this endeavor, how it was going to affect even the health, how healthy they presented themselves, how much energy they had, and even how they were perceived. And and they were distinctly different. They were distinctly better. And thus Molter took away the portion of their meat and wine that they should drink and gave them poles. And so there's an amazing miracle that took place. There's an amazing result when we trust God with doing the right things and becoming distinctly different from the culture, distinctly different from the world, that God blesses that and will help us to stand out, not so that we get attention, but so that because we do what's right, because we're people of character, we stand out. I taught my boys, listen, if you go to work and you work hard and you work the whole time from beginning to end, and you're responsible and you see not only what needs to be done and do that, but make sure you do what you've been told to do to the extent you're required to do it, you will stand out. Your work ethic will stand out, and people will notice, and they saw that to be true. Well, I think it's true in our Christian life too. When we're people of character, people say there's something different about those kids. There's something different about those people. They handle themselves different. They're not on edge. They don't lose their temper. They don't speak in a way that draws attention to themselves. They're not constantly promoting themselves. There is something different about them. And so in rearing godly kids, in discipling people to be godly, we have to purpose some things in our heart. We have to purpose to help them be distinct in the culture and world in which they live. The second thing is to purpose to be different. As for these 4 children, verse 17, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, then the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar, and the king communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king, and in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in his realm. In other words, God said, you know what, you be distinctly different, and I will help you to stand out. You be distinct from the world. You will be different from all the rest of them. You will stand out. And I've told my boys, make yourself indispensable to the team. Make yourself indispensable to the workplace. Make yourself indispensable to your boss. This makes you different from everyone else who just wants to fit in, who just wants to skate by, who wants to do just enough. I fear that even that mindset has gotten into Christianity. People are trying to just skate by, just try to do just the bare minimum. Let's just do enough for people to think we're spiritual. Let's just do enough to make people think we're godly, whether we're not. Listen, that's not the intent of this passage. That the purpose to be godly says, you know what, I'm going to be distinct from the world, but I want to stand out as somebody that shows people what God can do in a life. And then the last one is purpose to be dependable, verse 21. And Daniel continued even unto the first year of King Cyrus. He was dependable. He wasn't looking to get away. He wasn't trying to escape. He was doing what God had called him there to do, the best that he could do it. And he was standing out as somebody distinctly 10 times better than everybody else. and he stayed with it. Boy, there are just some things to say about being distinct, being different, and being dependable. And God says these are traits that I want to see in you. As my children, as my servants, I want to see these traits in you. And so as we look at our day, let's purpose to be godly. God bless you.